I do feel like the most successful people in the world probably are clinically diagnosable with some bit of, mental disorder,
Hmm.
like an ADHD or something, which is common now. I'm like, are they really like, is this really a pathology or is it actually a superpower? What's up, man? How's it going? How was the race?
Good, dude. Good, good. I'm sore as shit this morning, but yeah, other than that, I'm good.
And you just did the half, you didn't do a full marathon?
Yeah, just so the lady I work with, her name's Sarah Bishops. Shout out to Sarah. She's a female professional triathlete. She's awesome and a mom of three, so balances all that's pretty cool. But yeah, she was kind of like, hey, like, why don't we just, there's no reason for you to rush. Like, you've already done a couple halves. Let's just slowly try and build your fitness over, the summer, and you can kind of treat this half as a warm up and see what pace you can push. And we're going to build through the summer and then shoot for a fall marathon to kind of see what I can do there.
That's awesome. So it was what was it called? The Nick Bear, or was it BPN, or either way, it
The
was
Go
set
One,
up by Nick Bear, right?
the Go One More Marathon, which is kind of their tagline during for Bear Performance Nutrition, his brand.
That's super cool. So you met Nick this
Yeah,
weekend?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and like their whole setup was like they did such a fantastic job of just honestly, it's really cool just seeing the community. Like I was telling my buddy that did it with me, there's no supplement brand I feel like that has done that good of a job as like building a community around it. Just as far as like everybody from all walks of life is involved, and you can tell it's motivated them to get themselves in shape, whether that's their first time ever running a marathon or they're like a seasoned athlete. So it was really neat to be a part of that. And Saturday evening, they had like this big check in process for us at this really cool barn with meals provided for everybody. Nick and his staff all kind of got up and gave speeches and were telling their stories. And then Sunday morning, we showed up at his BPN's headquarters, and they bust us out to this private ranch out in Central Texas, or I guess he's friends with the owner, and they basically block it all off for us. And it's there, no spectators out there, so it's just a bunch of backcountry Texas roads that you're getting to run on, like super peaceful. We started right when the sun rose, so it's just really like neat experience as far as like how you would want to run, or at least ideally for me, how I would like a race to go.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. You got 14th out of how many?
I think there was 115 people that did the half. I'd have to go back and look.
Damn, dude. Top 10%. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it
That's
wasn't like
badass.
it wasn't an all out one for me. I kind of had like this idea of like, hey, I want to try and hold like a 7:25 pace, see how comfortable that feels. Again, my coach was like, let's just kind of see what you do. That should feel comfortable. And the whole time felt really good. And so I got to the last 5K, so the last 3.1 miles, and was like, okay, I'm going to hammer it now. And that last 5K was under 7 minutes the whole time. So I clicked off a 6:55, a 6:45, and another sub 7 to finish it. So it felt cool to like still have some energy in the tank like that too.
That's crazy. Were you the biggest dude there?
I I feel like that's a terrible question for me to answer, but I felt like I probably was the entire time out on the course. Anytime someone was going by me, there was a lot of holy shits and oh my god, comments like as people
That's
were
awesome.
cruising by me. So
I did follow the like Knicks and BPN stories trying to see if I could see, but it did look like the crowd, the population was a little bit bigger than your average running crowd.
definitely.
No one was as jacked as you, but they didn't look like the skinny marathon runners because I mean, I guess it makes sense. Nick has that following where they're kind of a hybrid of lifter and runner.
Yep.
That's cool though. Mark
Yeah.
Bell is running the Boston Marathon today, I believe. Isn't the Boston Marathon today?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. That's pretty
And
incredible, man.
I think that's Mark's first like
I
full
think so.
marathon, if I'm correct. Okay.
Yeah, just going for the big one.
Yeah, dude, good on him because he's a way bigger boy even than I am. So that's a lot of muscle to tug around for 26 miles. So good on him.
It's honestly super inspiring because if you look at his progression in life, he was basically like an obese individual, like
Mhm.
as a power lifter. Yeah, he had a lot of muscle under there, but he was really fat. I forget how much he weighed, but I wouldn't doubt that it was 300 or so,
Yep.
because he had so much fat and muscle on him. And then and then he competed in bodybuilding, which is amazing because he went from that really fat physique for powerlifting, which he used that as a lever. and then cut that down and competed with, I think Ronnie Hambod was his coach, which is
Mhm.
awesome because he got to train with him, but still just like such an amazing feat to go from powerlifter to bodybuilder and do that, check that off the list. And now taking all that mass and throwing it towards a marathon, that's pretty impressive, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's
Absolutely.
badass.
And
I feel like I have no excuse now.
I kind of like almost credit Nick with a lot of that, like kind of starting that movement over the last few years of like, hey, you can carry a lot of muscle and or formerly be somebody that was a power lifter, a bodybuilder, and transition your body into doing this, which is pretty cool because I feel like for a long time everyone just kind of had their camps, and now you're kind of seeing a lot more people do a crossover, which from an overall health perspective, I think is just so great. And first, obviously we know how important resistance training is, but in my opinion, I don't think anything really tops like having a really in shape cardiovascular system as far as your health and longevity goes.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think CrossFit probably was like the first group that guys were
Hmm.
big and still doing things. Um, they were running, like a sub 5 minute mile and still being able
Hmm.
to deadlift 500. I think, what was that? He's a BPN athlete, Adam something. Wasn't he one of the first ones to do that?
Adam Klink, yeah, and Adam was there
Yeah.
yesterday. And shout out to his
Awesome.
wife Shay, who is pregnant with their third child, I believe. She ran the half marathon as well. She just
Damn.
almost, I think, before she got pregnant, she just did like close to a sub 3 hour marathon, and then yeah, was chugging along yesterday. She probably like 5 6 months pregnant with their
That's
third
crazy.
child. Yeah, so but
That's
yeah, Adam
awesome.
was one of the original guys to do that.
Yeah. I mean, the thinking about Mark though, just so inspiring because I mean, I kind of hide be or not hide. I don't know what I do. Just make excuses when it comes to running, like I'm not good at it, blah, blah, blah. It's, my body's not meant for it. If my body's not meant for it, Mark sure as hell isn't made for it. I mean, we're about the same. I think I'm a little bit taller than him. Trying to remember, I've got a few pictures next to him, but I think I'm a little bit taller than him, but he's a
Mhm.
big dude, he's bigger than me for sure. And the fact that he's going to go out there and run 26 fucking miles, that's so insane.
Yeah.
Like for me, the most I ever did was most miles I ever ran. Maybe what's a 10K? 5, 6.
6.2.
Yeah, I did a 6.2 recently. I did a Spartan race that I got roped into, which had
Oh, nice.
a lot of obstacles and stuff too. That again took just a shit ton of mental fitness because I trained a zero amount for it. I just had to go out there and tough it out, which was fun. But that's the most I've ever done, and it was rough. So I can't imagine. I don't think I would make it through. Like, I honestly don't think I would make it out more than maybe like 5 miles. And I would just be like, oh my God, this is fucking insane.
Well, and that's the thing too that I try to like explain to on, like the reel that I filmed the other day explaining like different modalities. Like I know most people think of like running when it comes to improving their cardio fitness, but there's so many different, ways to go around it. I mean, just like there's guys that are incredible cyclists and swimmers that, I could never get to that level with running. So I feel like everyone like has something that probably fits their mechanics better too.
Yeah,
So,
true.
no knock if you're somebody who wants to get into that and running's not your thing, because I would say even like from long-term standpoint, you are taking the most damage physically while doing that, whereas there's a
Yeah.
lot of other modalities that are much lower impact that you could probably do for a lot longer.
I just remembered I did row a marathon once when I did more CrossFit.
Yeah,
That
there you
was
go.
that was intense. That was
Dude, I bet
crazy.
that was, how long did that take you? Oh my gosh.
Multiple hours. I don't know, 5 or
Oh,
more, I think.
oh my
I can't
gosh.
remember. It
Yeah.
was a long time though.
Because
Yeah,
I'm
that was
trying to think
awesome.
because it's, I think 2,000 meters. I think 2,000 meters is the direct conversion to a mile.
I can't remember now. It was
Yeah.
thousands of meters. I know that. I remember that
Yeah.
because CrossFit did it. I don't know if you remember in the games. I don't know what year. Maybe like I don't know, 2014. Maybe I can't remember. But they made them row a mile, or not a mile. They made them row a marathon, and
Holy
then
shit.
later that night do a max overhead squat,
Wow.
which is
That's
nuts. And I think
nuts.
Rich Froning was out there putting up like over 300 pounds overhead squat after. Yeah, I mean they had a few hours, but that's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
wild. It
Yeah. So
just
I
goes to
guess
show how cool like the human body is. And again, like how I think there's a lot of mental toughness that comes into the equation. Again, like Mark, like he's going to be the biggest dude out there. He's just going to probably look like an idiot and people are going to he's going to stick out, And I think he wouldn't care if I said he's going to agree. He probably is not going to look like anyone else out there, but he's going to just put his mind to it, which he's done. I mean, the dude's basically been successful in everything that he's ever tried to do, which is it's really inspiring. And he's just going to plug along, and that's what's going to get him through is more of the mental toughness. Of course, he's been training his ass off, and he's doing the best he can as far as technique and everything. But I don't know, ode to him. It's awesome.
And the thing is too, and to your point of, it's always a mental game is, there was a guy that he and I kind of paced each other pretty much the whole time yesterday. And we were chatting as we were cruising along, and like, it's all relative. Like, no matter how fast you are, like it always is tough, especially on a race, because that's kind of where you're letting, the governor off and pushing it for the max for however long you're going. So it doesn't matter if you're somebody who runs a sub 3 or a 5 hour marathon, like that's going to be tough. And there's pretty much like always points in a race where you hit like what the hell am I doing out here? Like, this is miserable. Why did I sign up for this? And you just have to like block those thoughts out and just kind of keep churning along.
Yeah, it's crazy. I feel like your body will just like stop. Mine will, at least. Like even the weightlifting, I'll stop and
Mhm.
then go, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like, wait, don't stop. I know it hurts a little bit, but like keep going. I did been doing the last 2 leg workouts I've done drop sets on the leg press, making Victoria shed off the weight, and that's like the ultimate burn. I go to where I'm damn near hitting max on my first set, where I'm grinding out the last rep, and then she pulls them off and I go and keep doing them. But by the time like the third plate is off, you're cardiovascularly like so taxed, your legs are burning so bad, and I keep wanting to stop, and then you'll have to tell yourself like, no, like you still can go. I know that I can still go, but my body's trying to stop. So it is having that, like being able to pull off the mental governor
Yep,
is such an incredible thing.
absolutely. Yeah, you've been training pretty hard, actually. I saw the story you put up with Victoria spotting you on the chest or dumbbell presses this weekend. That was some good weight. I was like, you look like
No,
you've been hitting it a little bit harder lately.
it was only 95-pound dumbbells. That's so weak for
Hey,
me.
dude. Hey,
There was
that's
a time when I
much
was hitting like
heavier.
125s.
Yeah,
It
put a
was
lot more
but
sauce in the equation too, so it's relative.
true, true. We train twice a week. I think I'm going to try to go today because we're filming this in the morning and I have consults starting in the afternoon. So I think I'm going to try to go today. We've been trying to hit 3 times a week. Speaking of, Derek posted a video yesterday with Jesse James West, and he was looking pretty damn good.
He was. I saw the
Yeah, did you see it?
screenshot at least from just it was the I think he reshared Jesse's post, but it was them on the bench with what I assume was not real plates. No offense to him. Just good
Oh,
for the
really? I don't
thumbnail.
know. I didn't even see how much weight was on there.
Yeah, but Derek was spotting him and like of course
Oh,
Derek has his shoulders, but he looks super beefy in his tank top. So
yeah, for just like a TRT only and talking to Derek, when I saw that, I texted him and was like, physique's pretty good. And he's like, that's my once a week physique. And I'm pretty much on the same thing. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to looking good like that, you really don't have to kill yourself. Like, I feel like I look relatively good and I don't go too hard in the gym these days, 2 to 3 times a week, an upper body, a lower body. And then in the week, if I can go, I'll try to do like arms and calves or something, because honestly, I want show muscles at this point. I never, up until this point in my life, I never cared about show muscles because I was more performance. I mean, when I got into bodybuilding a little bit a few years ago, right before I stopped everything, I tried to build up my arms too, which have carried me over, which is nice. But all through powerlifting and CrossFit and everything, I never did arms. So been trying to have a little bit more show muscle, so at least I look like I work out. So why not? For me, that
absolutely.
means legs and arms, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I like wearing short shorts and having quads that like people are like, yeah, that dude works out. Like quads and calves, I think, are just like, I don't know. They like command respect. Cause you see a dude, like when I saw your quads and your calves, I'm like, yeah, this dude fucking goes hard. Like it's the first thing I think. Like arms are okay and they see, but when I see a beefy set of quads, I'm just like, it's a fucking badass. He's pushed hard.
Yep. No, that's really funny because I've always kind of felt that same way that we know plenty of guys that have like a big upper body, but same thing. If I see like an impressive set of quads and hamstrings and calves, I'm like, you probably didn't just have that. Maybe you had good genetics, but 9 times out of 10, you probably had to work to develop those. Because even guys
Yeah.
with good genetics, like your legs are just something that really don't grow on their own. Whereas some
Right.
people just like through, I guess, athletics and sports, like their upper body will put on some mass, but legs not normally.
as gay as it is too, like a good pair of glutes. That's when you know someone's going hard, because glutes won't. There are guys who will build up their quads and hamstrings by doing like curls and extensions. But if a dude's got under some heavy weight when he's got a big old set of glutes, you're like, yep, that's a fucking powerful man right there.
Yeah, right. Shout out to Ryan Fisher. That's always
Oh
Ryan's
yeah, he's
thing.
got
Is like
insane glutes.
he does, and it's always kind of his thing. Like, hey, this is something that you should want to build up, and I will say, like, it looks pretty insane when you see a guy that has like all of that, because you're just not used to it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm gonna pop open the new Gorilla drink here. I think they come out today. Say the 17th.
I saw, yeah, their post yesterday said they were dropping the new flavor today. Which
Yeah,
one? You said was your favorite tasting one?
This one's kiwi. I got it because it's kind of matches the Atlas hour. But yeah, there's orange. That one comes out today or yesterday. There's white frost or Arctic white. I don't know. Fuck, I'm fucking it up. Sorry, Derek. And then there's black cherry vanilla, which is actually really fucking good too. When we first got it, Victoria's like, I don't really like cherry and vanilla stuff. And then she's been drinking the shit out of them. She likes them a lot. So yeah, they're all really good. This one's super unique though. I haven't seen a kiwi before. So
I would love if he takes over the energy drink market now. I
hope so too.
Everyone, like, when it comes to obviously, I know we're kind of affiliated with Derek, but Gorilla Mind like makes incredible supplements across the board. And I like always tell people, I'm like, I'm not sponsored by them by any means, but I pretty much rep their stuff to anybody. Just, I mean, like from his sleep aid to the protein to the collagen. I'm like, Sigma. I mean, like literally the best natural testosterone boosting product. It's all incredible.
Josh also likes their lock and load.
I didn't want to say that one, but it works as described.
Yeah, Derek's a dude who I have a lot of respect for too. And to be honest, like, and I got to tread carefully here. I don't want to, I mean, Derek kind of signs my paychecks when it comes to Marek, but when before knowing Derek, I really didn't think too fondly of him. I didn't have a negative view of him, but I guess I just lumped him in with influencers in general, which I've kind of always just been like, I don't know, some are cool, but a lot of them I'm just like, to be fair, he covered a lot of stuff that I didn't care about at the age that I was when he started coming out. I was already older than 30. And so his target demographic, I feel like, is like 20 to 30 probably. He was talking about things like how to get a bigger load and, how to get a bigger dick and hair loss. And, which is cool. I mean, he built an empire, but yeah, thinking about now, especially knowing him and how humble of a dude he is, I actually have an immense amount of respect for him. And again, just like Mark Bell has built so much from basically just following his passions and not giving up and just sticking true to that, Derek has too. And it's so fucking inspiring to think of, like, I don't even know what his background is. Asana maybe is what people say it is, but to think that he started with a shitty little webcam that was all pixelated as fuck. And he was like, his chubby face and round delts, he was all bulked out and behind Asana and just sat there and pumped out videos nonstop for years. Like every single day, I feel like he was coming out with a video until that just transpired into this massive YouTube following. And then he built products that he was passionate about. And Gorilla, I think, has an insane revenue, based on how many people to hear. Like when you hear about what his athletes are making per month, where I've heard claims of over 60,000 a month, and he pays them 20% commission, which is also awesome that he does that. That's an insane amount. That means those people are selling 300,000 a year or 300,000 a month. So over 3 million a year, one person. And then how many affiliates does he have doing that? He's got to be putting out awesome numbers, which he never talks about either. He's super humble. And then he went and started Marek. This episode is brought to you by Marek Health. As you know, at Atlas, we're extremely passionate about optimizing all aspects of the human condition. And we believe that starts with one's health. But before we start optimizing, we need to know what we're optimizing for, and we need to know where you're starting. That's why we partner with Marek Health, where you can stop guessing about your health status and actually get a look under the hood. Marek was co-founded by our friend Derek over at MorePlateMoreDates as a place where the individual could take their health into their own hands. Marek is a telemedicine company that uses blood work and other metrics to provide valuable reliable insights into how your body is functioning and what might need to be changed in order to improve your performance and longevity. With Marek Health's comprehensive lab tests, you'll receive biomarker feedback with actionable steps to improve your metabolism, your libido, your mood, cognitive function, and so much more. Once you get your labs done, your personal health coach will find a licensed medical provider in your state that can help you to develop a treatment plan. So we worked with Marek to provide our listeners with 2 panels. You can go over to marekhealth.com/Atlas and order our panel for 10% off using code ATLAS. Choose Atlas Lab Panel and pair it with a lab review from a health coach for a thorough analysis of your results. That's marekhealth.com/Atlas and use code ATLAS at checkout. You can also order your own desired labs and use code ATLAS to get 10% off your first order. And that took me so long to film, so please go do that, guys. And yeah, it's just awesome. I don't know. Yeah, the more I get to know him, I'm happy to be affiliated with him and I guess call him a friend, which is cool. I get hyped on anyone's success, especially when they're doing what they love and they're honest, humble people who just grind and make something out of nothing. I don't know. It's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. Well, especially because of nowadays, I mean, just the way that social media is, there are a lot of people that do catch fire and gain a following, and not to poo-poo on their parade, but not really bringing anything quality into the space that they're at. So I think I always have kind of latched onto and followed people that it's like, you, again, like you're saying, you can tell they're very passionate, but they're also adding a lot of quality into their space, a lot of new knowledge. And I mean, Derek with Gorilla Mind and Marek kind of has like 2 cutting edge platforms in their respective spaces. So, that took a lot of time and effort and bringing in a lot of good people to help him do that. I mean, and just the way that he formulates his product, nothing in comparison as far as, having the actual, what's the word, efficacious dosages of product or ingredients, things of that nature that others don't do. And now that he took that approach, it's like you see that you can be successful going that route. It might be a little more upfront cost to you, but people catch wind of that and jump on board if they know that you're giving them good quality and you believe in what you're doing.
Yeah, when it comes to what he does as far as dosing the products, it's not cheap for sure. I did a podcast with Fuad again yesterday. You guys will have to watch that when it comes out. We talked about semaglutide or Ozempic. But we talked about Derek afterwards, and he was like, like he's in the supplement space, he owns Hostile, and he was like, Derek's formula is, damn, I'm burping again. Fucking shouldn't have opened this energy drink. He's like, Derek's formulas are not cheap. Which I could imagine. So, what he puts out, he probably ends up not making as much as he would otherwise, to actually have a product that he stands behind. And there's some people in the space that have kind of criticized him for being more entertainment than educator. And who cares? Honestly, now at this point, he's able to put out amazing products like this. This drink is hands down, from a scientific standpoint, the best energy drink on the market. Absolutely. Like I've never seen anything that has stuff like saffron and uridine monophosphate, N-acetylcysteine, tyrosine, alpha GPC. All the stuff that he has in here is pretty insane for an energy drink.
Yep.
And he's been able to build up Marek with the help of the team, but it's new to the space. I don't know. So what he did for entertainment, I feel like when he was just, reacting to TikTok videos and shit, the things that why I wasn't a huge fan of him, but it helped him to build that so he could do what he actually was passionate about, which is cool. And I say props to him. I don't feel like he sold out ever in any way. He's not somebody who did I don't know. There are some people who are like, well, ends justify the means. I'll do some bullshit videos that I don't fully agree with. I don't know. I felt like he stuck pretty true to his ethics and moral code.
Yeah. And he's talked about it a little bit before that, that was kind of, I can't remember what year it was, but he followed the Greg Doucette route, I believe, of like, hey, I'm going to put out 2 videos a day. And some of them may be about gimmicky things, but I know that's what the algorithm's going to catch. And as I try and build my brand, that yes, maybe it might be a little corny, but I also have this huge backlog of actual really scientific videos where I'm doing 45-minute formulation breakdowns, really getting into the science of different studies for hair loss, testosterone replacement. So that was all mixed in conjunction with it. So I think he did a good job of balancing the 2 of those things, because you can be super scientific, but that may not be enough to build your brand, and you kind of have to have a balance of both.
Yeah, that's awesome. Guess enough of sucking Derek's dick. I just like to
Yeah.
all people we've talked about today: Nick Bear, Mark Bell, Derek, last name unknown. Everybody is, they've all built like empires out of following their passion. I think it's
Hmm.
so fucking awesome. I think it's so cool because again, we've talked about before, like people, talk shit that the American dream isn't a thing and blah blah blah, or I can't do this because X, Y, and Z. Like, really, I mean, Derek literally got a shitty ass webcam, sat it down in front of his computer, and Derek's nothing special, And I think he would agree too. Like, he's a good looking dude and he had good muscle, but he's not like, Brad Pitt.
Hmm.
He wasn't educated in science. He sat down and did the work. He pulled up some manuscripts and some articles and taught himself a lot, and then sat there and busted out video after video after video for years and built an empire out of that. And it's just fucking hard work. And there was nothing like, he never really caught a break as far as I know. Like there are some people who, I mean, me for one, us, any fame that we have comes off the back of him and what he's done through Marek,
Hmm.
That's like, I'm luckier than him when it comes to that. I don't think he had any of those collaborations or anything. He started out just grinding away, doing his own thing and built it from that. So yeah, same with Nick too. Nick, in the beginning, I followed Nick from the beginning, and I don't think he really had anyone big who kind of propelled him. He was just unique to the space, and that he was in the military and filming his progression with fitness and building a company and everything. I guess you could argue that Mark kind of, his brother, when they filmed that documentary, he kind of used that opportunity to propel his own career. But again, I feel like we honestly all do walk into opportunities here and there, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
And you have the choice to either like excel through that or utilize that to your advantage or not,
Yep.
Um, yeah, I don't know.
Because it could be said, even for like a guy like Derek, that their success came off the back of YouTube becoming what it is now. So it's like we could all find different, things to say, oh, well, it would have never happened if it had not been that for that. But,
Yeah.
something even Nick was speaking about before we took off for our race is, the night before and just looking how much BPN has built up. He's like, I literally said, to your words, I'm not really anything special other than I just am good at being consistent. And I feel like if you look at most people that are successful, that's like normally the backbone that gets them there. There's a massive lull period probably where you don't really feel like you're making linear progress, but it's that day in boring, non-sexy work that you put in that eventually gets you there. And I know people probably have heard me say that way too much, but that's a huge factor that we like to overlook. And nowadays people expect like, I'm going to post 2 videos and catch fire and get famous. And it's like, no, like one, you should have the passion behind what you're doing, that you just are doing it because you love it and care about it. But two, like it's going to take consistent work for you to ever catch fire with it.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I guess we're just talking about influencers here, but for all the influencers who are, have that million subscriber count or whatever, probably like 2% of them got lucky and just
Hmm.
propelled. You look at somebody like Mr. Beast. I forget what the stats are, but it was something like 1,000 videos or something before he even got like his first 1,000 subscribers. I mean,
Yep.
this is episode 11 and we're already at 1.8 thousand. So we're ahead of Mr. Beast in that
Hmm.
regard. But he sat there and just continued to grind and grind and grind. And now his videos are making millions per production. It's
Yep.
insane.
Yep.
Same with Derek, all the videos that he put out year after year before he finally, caught fire. Mark Bell. I mean, Mark Bell's podcast, everybody knows Mark Bell's podcast now. I don't think they really realize that he's maybe been doing it for like 10 years or so now. I don't know how long exactly, but a lot longer than I think people know, because he started a podcast that was mainly powerlifting centered
Yep.
originally. And there's been different iterations of his podcast, but he's just been grinding away. And now we would have 200,000 or 300,000 or so, which
Hmm.
even really isn't that big in the grand scheme of things. But the fact that he keeps showing up year after year for that return, like that's a fucking badass. Nick, same thing.
Yep.
Super cool.
Exactly, man. It's what we're trying to
Consistency is
do here
key.
too.
Yeah, maybe eventually one day, but whatever. It's still fun.
Absolutely.
Consistency is key. And
You
then,
got to go.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say what we're trying to do. There was, hopefully he's listening today. I already told Josh this story, but I had a client come through, Marek, who said that he was doing a ruck while listening to our podcast with Dominic, and he was able to push through the ruck because he was listening to that. And he said that was exactly what he needed. And then he went home and took a cold shower, which he said absolutely sucked, but he felt so good after it. And that's really what we're trying to do, which is awesome. And to hear that, I was like, okay, that's probably cooler than if we, made X amount of money off of an affiliate brand deal or something, because that is the type of thing that we really want to do. Neither one of us need to build anything financially out of this. We're both financially set. And so it's just fun to be able to, I don't know, inspire people and build a community too, like what Nick's done. I'm sure he would agree that the community that he was with this weekend means so much more than all the money that he's made, because to walk out there and just see thousands of young guys and women too, that he'd be like, I've inspired them to do whatever, to bring this community together, to feel better about themselves, to push themselves, to, go one more, as his catchphrase is fucking awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that's my buddy that was with me when we were there doing the bib check-in the night before, and they had the event for everybody. I whispered to him, like, man, that's got to be like the coolest feeling for him to look out and see all this and how many people have come together for him, and of all walks of life too, men, women, I mean, young, old, people are super in shape, just getting into their journey, very family oriented there, like so many young kids too. Like, I'm like, that's probably something that's lost a lot now too, is that I think sometimes in the space of social media, like a lot of things are very selfish in nature about like promoting oneself. And I understand that it's part of the game, but to see somebody like take the approach of really wanting to build a community that's much bigger than them is really what it's all about at the end of the day. I mean, because now you have the platform to do that and create communities that would have never been even put together had it not been for the platform to do that.
I do personally feel like those who are trying to actually help others and are passionate about what they're doing have a lot more longevity than those who are just
Mhm.
trying to get, likes and views right now. Because and I think that goes like, looking at TikTok. TikTok, it's really easy to grow a massive following really quickly. You just do stupid dances and things, but in the long run, that's not going to go very far. That's why I feel like a brand deal probably would pay a lot more to a YouTube channel that has like 100,000 followers than they would a TikToker who has like a million, because
Absolutely.
there, when you build a YouTube community, you're probably really passionate about what you're doing and you connect with your crowd. And then TikTok is more just like this fleeting, fast boom, boom, boom thing that people are into right now. But yeah, I mean, like Nick, like he's tried to build that community. He's tried to build BPN to be bigger than just him. And now he even stepped down, as CEO, right? And gave it to that female,
Hmm.
whatever, I forget her name, but
Cat
yeah, I
is
mean,
her name.
he just tried to grow something bigger than him, and it shows. And that's why somebody like him will have longevity, which is just super cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Shifting gears, you and Victoria have got to go see the movie Air. Abby and I went and saw it last night.
Oh, you did?
Oh, dude, and like so incredible. It fired me up so much. Like, no, and the backstory, if for people that don't know, it's about how Nike pursued Michael Jordan and started the Air Jordan shoe line back in the day, and it's just so incredible. The like now we all just think like that MJ and Nike and basketball shoes are one and the same, but you forget that back in the '80s they were just a running shoe company. And
Right.
just to see how they pursued him and acquired him, it just really, really cool story.
It's all about his mom mainly, right?
And
Yeah.
that was something that we were talking about as well. Like his mom, like Michael definitely got his killer mentality and just like, hey, I'm never going to let anyone take advantage of me attitude from his mom, because she was certainly the matriarch of that family. And Abby and I were even talking about this morning. Like, it's interesting seeing families like that, because I think sometimes we think of like the man maybe in American society as being like the head of the house. But if you look at like all other mammals and stuff, it's normally the mother who kind of
True.
like runs the show. And to see a family unit function like that, I was like, it's kind of cool and refreshing. 'Cause it's like, yeah, the dad's maybe the protector who hunts, who gathers, but like the mom is who holds it all together and is there to protect the entire family. So it was pretty neat.
That's awesome. Yeah, it is crazy to think of like Jordan. Yeah, this is dude's worth billions, I'm sure. It's insane. And
Makes
then Nike
$400
too.
million dollars a year in passive income from that deal with Mikey. And he was the
Holy
first
shit.
athlete that they had ever signed to actually make a percentage off of shoe sales. That was a huge thing. and the
Damn.
most they had ever done in sales was $3 million with one athlete. In that first year with Air Jordan, they did 136 million.
That's insane. When
Yeah.
I was a student, we went to they brought in we were at a sports conference up in Oregon, and they brought all the people from the podiatric sports conference to the Nike factory or whatever, Nike headquarters. It was
In
they had
Beaverton.
like a yeah, they had a whole row. Have you been there?
My good family friends live in Beaverton, so yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, they have like a whole row of all the Jordans in their base model, just all white. Like it was just sick to see. But and then hearing them and walking through, because they'll give you a little bit of a talk about the history of Nike too. That's another one. And I know a lot of people have read the Nike book about like the inception of Nike. Another insanely inspiring story, where they were literally selling shoes out of the back of a car for a
Hmm.
while before they ever took off,
Yep.
using the inspiration off his wife's waffle maker to get the bottom imprint on the shoe, whatever you call it, the tread.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. Again, just like started with a small dream and then consistency over years. Now the biggest shoe company in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah, and even the guy whose idea it was, I'm going to blank on his name now, who was the one who really pushed them to go after MJ, because they were a small fish in that pond at the time. Converse had Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Adidas was who Michael like pretty much was set to sign with because that was a really popular brand. Like everyone thought the guy that really wanted to go after him was absolutely crazy. Like there's no way we can allocate our budget entirely to this one athlete, but felt so passionate about like the way that Michael played, looking at him like, no, this is literally going to be the biggest athlete probably ever. I can just like see it in him and how like he noticed that. And then obviously MJ went on to be, I mean, in my opinion, the greatest athlete of all time. Pretty
Yeah,
inspiring to see.
that's awesome. I love those stories so much, man. It's so fucking cool. Like maybe last year, I think it was, there was like 3 big shows that came out about like tech startups and things. There was
Hmm.
the WeWork one. Did you see that?
Hmm. Hmm.
And then the Uber one, which the Uber one, I know they were trying to portray the owner or the start. What would you call him? I guess he was CEO. I forget his name
Hmm.
now, but I know they're trying to portray him as like an asshole or whatever. But I was like, this guy's fucking badass. Like he had what it took to build Uber
Yep.
to what it is.
Yep.
And then there was also the what was the one of that chick who I forget, where they took the like one drop of blood.
Oh, Theranos.
Theranos, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There, I mean, even that one though, in ways it was inspiring because even though she was full of shit, like she did have a lot of tenacity to grow a large company. I don't know why those all came out around the same time, but I was fired up to be like an entrepreneur when all those were coming up, especially the Uber one. I want to rewatch that.
Yeah.
That's a crazy story too. All of them are just so crazy. Again, consistency and mental toughness and just having belief in yourself and not giving up when shit gets tough. Can't say it
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah, and I think the obviously I know that she's going to jail now for the Theranos situation and was full of shit, but there's I think people forget too, like a lot of the big companies in America kind of faked it until they made it. Like you
Yeah.
are trying just to grow, continue to bring in capital to, support your ideas until you finally get there. So, again, I know there was a lot of sliminess that went on, but I'm sure there's a lot of companies that have gotten away with that and then finally hit it big. And it's kind of
True.
like you can forget about the past at that point.
Yeah, she was pretty bad. I
Yeah.
forget. Alex Hormozy's got a quote about not faking it till you make it. I forget what it is. It was good. I don't even know why I bring that up because I can't finish finish the sentence. But I remember I was like, "That's true." Like, I think he is against faking it till you make it. It's more like just continue to do stuff and I don't
Yep.
know. Which is true. Yeah, faking it till you make it can work, but I don't know. I think when you have like we've talked about before, the Dunning-Kruger effect, sometimes you feel like you're faking it even though you're not. Like I
Hmm.
honestly feel that way. The Dunning-Kruger effect being when you start something in the beginning, you feel like your knowledge is really high, even though it's really low. And actually, the more you increase in knowledge, the less confidence you have. And you kind of have like an imposter syndrome. So sometimes I feel like I'm faking it, but I'm like, no, I am actually a professional at some of the things that I'm doing. I actually do know what I'm talking about. I have to remind myself of that. Like, you're not an imposter. Yeah, I don't know. I think having a lot of we all have self doubt, but I also have a lot of self like love and respect. And I think that's really important too. because you'll see a lot of these people and they kind of tagged as cocky, but I think that allows them to be who they are. I've definitely known people in life who have a lot of self-doubt, and they just believe they can't do anything. And I think that puts a massive, I don't know what it kind of just inhibits you to, you
Yep.
can't really do anything at that point because you've convinced yourself that you can't. And I've always kind of believed that I could do anything that I wanted. And I think it's gotten me pretty far. I didn't always have that, but when I learned that hack in life, that like, fuck yeah, I can do anything. Like I can literally do that. When I
Yep.
start something, I'm like, and I envision it. Like I'm huge on envisioning. I've always been that way. Like even in weightlifting, I would, I'd put the weight on the bar and I would literally like focus, like I'm going to squat and I'm going to hit this one rep and I'm going to get up. Like I know that I'm going to push through it. I'd envision that and I'd envision the success, and then I would do it. When I was in school and I was studying, I would envision like what it would feel like to wear a long white coat, because when you're a student, you have a short white coat and then you get a long white coat when you graduate. And I just envisioned like, when I was an undergrad, I envisioned just getting the white coat, this short one, like the white coat ceremony. And then in school, I would envision getting the long one. And I always was just like, I can do that. I'm going to do that. And I just think about it that way. I try to not have that self-doubt because it's so limiting.
Yep. Well, and
Like if
there's
you went
the
into this weekend thinking like, oh, I'll probably like stop at mile 10, you would have,
yeah, yeah. Well, and there's that balance of having humility when you're along your journey to know that you still have so much to learn, but
Yeah.
balancing it with the confidence of it doesn't matter that I don't, I'm going to put in the work necessary to get there. And really, no matter how far along I make it, there's still going to be people that are more talented than me, know more than me, or things that I may be incorrect about. But if I just continue to have the attitude of a student, but with the confidence in my own abilities to continue to get better, I think that's like the kind of the perfect balance you have to have. Go what in whatever your pursuit is.
Yeah. I think people get stuck too much on, I don't know, they give too much meaning to certain things in their own life too, like I wasn't born into an affluent family.
Mhm.
Okay. What does that mean? Like, and they
Mhm.
just let that like, or I have X disability. Okay. And not to like, not to take anything away from these people, but it's like, okay. I mean, what does that do? Like, are you going to just be hindered by that and stop there? Or are you going to say, I have X disability, I'm going to strap on a prosthetic and I'm going to run a marathon?
Mhm.
That's what differentiates them. And again, I don't want to take anything away from them. It's really easy for an able-bodied person to talk that way, of course, but I have had different things. I didn't come from money, blah blah blah. We've talked about, I was homeless for a point in time, but I don't have the best genetics, whatever you want to say, and eventually I just go, okay, and like, what does that mean? Does it really mean anything? Not if I don't give it power. You know what I mean? I can
Yep.
hide behind that label, or I can just embrace that label and make something out of it. I'm
Yep.
the guy who was homeless who became a doctor, like stuff like that. Or I could have just been, I was the guy who's homeless. And so then I look back on that and I say, oh, my childhood wasn't that great. And that's why I'm this way.
Yep.
You can use your whatever you have in life to go different directions. I just choose to use it as motivation.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and like you said, being able to kind of use whatever it is that I guess, others could look at as something to maybe pity you about or have empathy for you, that like, no, like this is just my own unique perspective that nobody else can speak to. And I can speak to maybe a group of people that only I understand this. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can frame it. And again, not trying to lighten, what others go through or their struggles, but it also again does give you a unique perspective that Adam or myself or somebody else could maybe never understand, but you almost use that as your superpower too in a way.
100%. Yeah, you can use that as an advantage.
Yeah.
I'm a poor black individual whose mom was a crack addict or whatever, and I'm going to become a senator, like
Yeah.
that. You have so much more advantage over just the average dude whose parents went to Yale and you went to Harvard and, you were bred to be a senator. Like you now have a superpower above other people because you took what should have been coined like a negative or a hindrance and you made it into a power.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I think that I feel like more people, I guess, should. I don't like the word should, but I feel like if you did that, people would get a lot further in life.
Yeah. Yeah, to use the MJ story as an example, even when they were speaking to him, the guy that Sonny is his first name, I forget his last name, that was the one at Nike that pursued him, said that to him. Your story is so unique in the sense that you were cut from your high school basketball team. You were not a superstar. You willed your way into the NBA. You know, you were drafted third overall. Everyone thought you were too small still as a guard, but you are the one who like used all that, your story, and knowing that you weren't just the superstar from day one is almost what makes you even more powerful into what you then became, because everyone can relate to that or see that, this guy wasn't given everything from day one. He had to bust his butt to get there, and that's what made his story so appealing for everyone.
That's awesome, man. I love stories like that. I'll definitely have to go see it. Did you cry?
Dude, there's a couple points I was getting, and like just the nostalgia for 1980s America
Oh
too. I
yeah.
was like, we might have peaked then.
Yeah, those are good. I mean, I only lived 2 years in the '80s. You didn't even live in the '80s at all, huh?
I didn't, and I want to
Oh, wow.
experience it because I'm like, looks like it was a pretty dang good time.
Yeah, I can't remember any of the '80s. I was only 2 when turned to 1990, but yeah, definitely a different time. Even the '90s were amazing. Like early '90s, I definitely remember. Mid '90s, fun times. But on Fuad's podcast, one of the guys was saying he saw it and cried. So I was like, yeah, I mean, I probably would. I get choked up on those type of movies. Like motivational movies get me definitely choked up.
Yeah. Well, and just like, did you watch the 10-part documentary on the 90s Bulls that came out a couple years ago?
His documentary,
The ESPN one with Michael. It was like the 10-part series on the basically,
The Last Dance or
yes, The
whatever.
Last Dance.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, for sure.
And just even watching that, like, there's just, I not to get into a basketball, but the LeBron and MJ comparison, I'm like, man, there's just something
Oh,
about Michael though, like that just ultimate competitor, and to see how much he went through as far as, and Sonny said it in the movie last night, like you're going to be built up and then they're going to tear you down. And that happened with Michael. He was built up into everything. And then, his father gets murdered and the whole world's trying to say it's because his dad was a gambler and this disrespecting his family. And when Michael wants to walk away and do something different, everyone trashes him for that. But like, to be that talented, but also have the mental fortitude to withstand, like, I can't even imagine that onslaught of just pressure from the outside world, and to still perform at that level is just, I don't know how you can't watch that stuff and just get so motivated.
yeah, that's for sure. He seems like an interesting dude. An angry dude for sure. Definitely has a lot of. I mean, I think that would be when you look at the most successful people. Victoria and I were having this conversation this weekend talking about mental health issues, and we
Mhm.
were talking about the increase in diagnoses of everything, and somehow it pivoted to. I was saying that like I don't necessarily buy into all of like the children and their mental health issues. I just feel like I don't know. I got to tread lightly there because I'm not fully versed. I'm certainly, I don't have any degrees in psychiatry or psychology. I don't fully understand them, but
We forget that our minds are wired to like start to disassociate the reality from that, especially when feelings get involved, and that you easily could, if you had something that was real enough and sounded like a human and gave you the same mental feedback and stimulus, you could certainly start to fall for that and not need another person, which is really scary and odd to think about.
it's crazy. Have you seen that movie? What's it called? Is it
Moves in
called
real life
Her?
are much better. So
I think it's called Her. I don't know. I think it was a Walking Phoenix. I don't know. There's a movie where a guy falls in love with a robot or like a AI. Do you
oh
remember that?
yes, gosh, what it's
I think it's called Her or something. Or
Machina or
no, that's a different one.
okay,
Ex
but
Machina is good. The other
same
one is
kind of
like,
premise.
yeah, same concept, but he has like it's an AI system that he's talking to, and it's like set up. It's in the future, kind of, and she's wired into his house, so he can walk in, always be talking to her. Or she's in his headphones, and it's Scarlett Johansson as the voice. I remember
Mm,
that one, and he falls like madly in love with her, and she falls in love with him though too, which is really interesting. And then they're in love, but then it's just crazy. That movie is really cool to think about too, because I love like philosophy and thinking of that shit. And like it's an AI and she's developing feelings for him. And then like, is that real love? Why
mm,
not? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, what more
yeah,
are we than a group of neural connections, with electricity powering through us? What's the difference between an AI and us other than
yeah.
we have organic, hardware, I guess, is
Yeah.
the only real difference, right? I don't
Yeah.
know. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like if you uploaded your consciousness into a inorganic like computer, do you still think that's a human being?
Mm.
I mean, do
Yeah.
you? I don't know. What do you think? I've always wondered that. That was posed to
Yeah.
me in philosophy, I think like 101 in college.
Yeah. I guess my only question for things is like, do you need the physical interaction with another human for it to be the exact same? Like another human touch and like all those other factors in it for like your brain to register it as the same? Maybe it's not a factor whatsoever. So you could just essentially upload me to a computer and I would just be Josh, but like I don't know, would other people react the same to me as if they had a relationship with the physical me, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if the other person interacting with you is also in a computer,
Yeah.
is that it? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's when you have to start wondering, like, is there something omnipotent, and like, is there a god or a soul? Is there a soul that differentiates us from an AI?
Yeah.
Because for people who don't feel that way, then what the hell's the difference? An AI is basically a human being. If you just feel like we're just that connection of neural components and different, electricity firing in different regions of our processor.
Yeah. Which then obviously goes in the equation or the question of how much little we actually know. I mean, obviously we know a lot about the human brain, but if you think about how much is unknown, like, yeah, what is that human component of it? Is there something that with my physical brain, no matter how well you trained a computer to learn and react, would there still be something missing in that equation? And if not, then that's where it gets really interesting. But maybe there is something that no matter what, like you'll never be able to kind of differentiate or make them one and the same.
Yeah, I don't know. That shit trips me out. I've thought about that for years. Like, what makes a human, and is there anything really all that special? I mean, you have to believe that you have a soul, essentially, because that would be the one thing that could differentiate us. But for those who are like strictly science based, and you literally think like all we are these, this organic lump of stuff that has these neural connections and certain chemicals fire and happen, like if that's all you think, then we're literally no different than a computer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fuck, I don't know. I know we'll never know the answer, but I love thinking about stuff like that. I could talk about that kind of stuff all day long.
Absolutely.
That's
I think I'll
crazy.
always err that we're unique just so it keeps me sane, and that we're not the
Yeah.
same as just a computer. And hopefully in my lifetime, we don't reach that point, or you and I both lifetime, we don't reach that point where we have to find out fully.
Dude, I don't know. Freaking everything is progressing so rapidly. It's so scary. Like the AI thing is really like freaking me out the more and more I think about it. I'm just like, holy shit. Like, I mean, content creation, like something like they just made an AI deep fake of the Rogan podcast.
That's
Did you
all.
see that?
Yep.
Yeah, that's insane. It
Yep.
was perfect. So
Yep.
what the fuck?
Well,
Where our podcast isn't even going to be necessary. You can literally like an AI will learn off of the individual what the individual likes and curate a podcast that would spark that listener's interest and keep it there 100% of the time.
yep.
And that's insane. It's insane.
And I always wonder, like, will there ever be pushback for that in the sense that there will always be people that if you know that it's not real or not real, it's not an actual other human, will does that cause any type of disconnect, or will there always be people that are like, I understand that's a system like generated computer, it's not really another person, or will eventually it just become like that line is blurred and nobody gives a shit at that point, which is really scary to think about it
I
then.
think I think it would get to the point where it was blurred in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, just based on, yeah, every like think of how special things like TV were when they first came out, and it's just like, it's not anything big anymore. Like, I don't know. I know it's not a great comparison, but I think eventually we'll just be numb to it. And that's what, like, you will consume that content that's AI generated, and it will mean something to you, and I would imagine we'll probably develop feelings and emotions towards those AI people. Like, people who actually listen to Rogan right now have a connection to him, or they feel like they do. And eventually you'll have a connection towards the AI creator too.
God, I
Cause
hope not.
because there's already been like bands and things, right, that are basically all AI generated. Like, isn't the Gorillas like all made by computer essentially?
Oh, the band?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are
I
they a
think
real
so.
like in person? I can't remember.
I think they're an
If
actual real, but like their characters themselves are obviously like generated or computer
true.
generated images.
Well, I feel like
Um,
music, there's got to be multiple ones out there that are generated via like AI alone that people
but
really like.
and then my thing with that though is like if with someone like Rogan, people feel attached to Joe because I feel like they see the things he does in real life though too, and
Yeah.
like a Nick Bear or the other like the people we were talking about earlier that we're fans of or or look up to, like we see the things that they do in real life, and maybe that's why we fall or have a deeper connection with them. So do you lose some of that when it's just like a auto generated computer that's speaking to you, whereas like I can see the work and the things that Joe does on a day to day that I want to emulate. Same with
Yeah.
Nick, same with Derek. So who knows?
So with us and our generation, we will probably be connected to that. But
Hmm.
eventually with kids coming up, I don't think they'll care anymore,
That's
you
fair.
know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's my buddy that is a high school coach here. Talks about to me with all the time. He's like, dude, like the way high school kids are now, like it really scares me. And he's like, I've never really thought about that. From the time they basically, came out of like or into early childhood, like they have been plugged into this virtual reality. So for them, like they have no differentiating factor. Like at our age, like we know when the switch happens, so we still kind of understand that like this is not always how it was, but for them that's just always going to be their life, so they don't really have the perspective to be able to differentiate the two of those things. So that is definitely where it
Yeah.
kind of gets different or becomes a little scary.
Yeah, exactly. Because I grew up, I lived 18 years without a cell phone,
Hmm.
and before I didn't get mine until I was 18 or maybe even older, 19 or so. So it is still kind of novel to me. And I understand I'm baffled all the time and always like when I stop and think about like, holy shit, like what I hold in my hand is crazy. But these days, kids are born holding that in their hand. So it's not crazy to them at all. It's
Yeah.
just how it always was.
Yeah.
So eventually, if we have AI running things, they won't, I don't think they'll be kind of amazed by it like we are.
Yeah. And the thing that I was actually talking to Abby about this the other day, when I think about, just my dad was born in 1960. So when he was 27, that was 1987. To think about how rapidly the world has changed from 1987 to now him being 63 years old, I'm like, man, to think about what could happen in that transition of my part of my life is really, really scary. If you think about
Well,
the
it's
exponential growth.
faster.
Yeah, way
Yeah.
faster. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
That's why I'm
insane.
like, yeah, so 5 years is, 20 years and, his scale of time and like knowing what the world will be like by the time I'm raising kids or things like that is
Dude.
like really messes with my mind to even try and cope with because we have no idea.
It's wild. Like, from the 80s to the 2000s, not a lot was that different. There
Mhm.
was, things have always kind of progressed, but slower. And then suddenly it just like snapped. And now we've like have this insane like velocity behind growth. It's crazy. Things change every day. Like, I mean, I'm streaming this on a fucking iPad that I bought like 3 years ago and I haven't fired it up in a while.
Yep.
And I did, and I couldn't even do half the shit I wanted it to do that I thought was a standard on Apple stuff because the technology's already changed so much. I was like, holy
Yep.
shit, I already have to
Yep.
buy a new iPad. I had it back in school and I haven't fired it up in a while. And just so crazy how fast things change these days. And yeah, it's wild. I'm not looking
Yeah.
forward to the future.
We sound like a bunch of boomers talking about it. Oh, get
We're
off my
definitely some
lawn.
boomers. Exactly. Well, I mean, there is some technology we like today's sponsor, Marek Health, which we should definitely shout out for. When it comes to technology with the lab work, I feel like and getting to look under the hood. We talked a lot about humans versus AI and stuff. And since we are not AI and we're not perfect, I think it's huge to get a look under the hood and look at your own lab work and see, what you're dealing with. You can do anything from just routine lab work. Well, not routine in any way, very in-depth lab work, but looking at things like your lipids and your metabolic health. You can also do genetic testing though too, and see kind of, get a glimpse into what your future may hold. Both Josh and I work at Marek Health, and we're super passionate about that. Kind of I don't know, what would you say about Marek Health?
I would say the thing that when I like surmise it to other people of what we do there and what I think makes it so special is obviously, to your point, we are looking at things that I feel like were never addressed before. And
Yeah.
maybe like what Peter Attia refers to as medicine 3.0, we're taking a preventative stance. And realizing that so many of chronic diseases are all linked. They're not just an independent variable from one another, but we're also teaching the average person how to combat that through pharmacology, but also more so their lifestyle interventions of like, hey, you're in control of this ship. Whereas I think medicine 2.0 was basically kind of people thinking like, hey, just when I get sick, that's when the medical establishment is supposed to help me. But like kind of putting the tools and the keys back in people's hands of like, no, you can take charge of this and learn this. You may not be any medical expert by any means, but you will at least know almost 90% of what you need to as far as helping yourself to live a long and healthy life, which I think to me that's the coolest part, to get to take people along that path and see how enlightening it is for them.
Exactly. Perfectly said. I fucked it up by trying to squeeze it in there when I should not. But no, I am super passionate about marriage just because I got into, I've said my story many times and it'll be a repeat for people, but I got into medicine because I first found fitness and I was super passionate about science and fitness and everything. And I probably picked the wrong specialty because I quickly found that all I was dealing with were people that certainly were not fit, were never going to be fit. And I was dealing with disease in a state that it was so bad that I was having to cut off limbs, because diabetes had basically just rotted these people's feet away. And I was like, well, fuck, this is the exact opposite of what I want to be doing. And even though I didn't want to be doing that, there's no infrastructure in medicine that allows us to basically be preventative practitioners. They say that we are and everything, but what does that really mean? They'll be like, all you have 5 minutes with the patient in a visit, and you can tell them like eat better and exercise. And what the fuck does that even mean to somebody? And that doesn't, resonate with anybody whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so it's to no surprise that they continue their decline in their health. And so when I found Merrick, I was so pumped on the fact that they were looking at labs that you wouldn't even be allowed to order, that I wouldn't be allowed to order. Like if I want to order an LP little A or an ApoB, it's not going to be approved by insurance probably, which is crazy. Can't tell you the amount of patients I have too, where they have like an LDLC of 120 or something like that, which is high for those of you listening, but it's not quite high enough for somebody. Like if I have a 120 LDLC, if you plug it into a calculator, my risk for cardiovascular disease will still be pretty low. And so nobody will treat it, and they won't want to look into more in-depth markers or anything like that because my risk isn't low enough. And that's literally equivalent of saying continue to smoke until you have lung cancer, which is how we treat things like atherosclerosis and metabolic disease and things. I had a guy yesterday who was diabetic, 6.5 A1C, 200 testosterone, insulin was like 60 or something like that. Triglycerides were 300. LDLC was like 130 or something like that. And he was literally told, we'll just keep watching this and everything by his doctor. And he was like pretty pissed about that because he was like, damn, I want to hit this as hard as I can right now. I'm like, I think he was 40 or so. It's like, I'm 40. I know that this stuff is reversible, but they just told me they're going to keep watching it, like keep watching it until when, and that's what it is we'll keep watching. And that's what we're trained to do. And then we treat it when it's like bad enough to warrant treatment where insurance will pay for it. And so that's what I liked about Marriage. We actually do get to do preventative, and we can also help people who have performance goals and, things that are people who are perfectly healthy, who want to be healthier. So with Merrick, again, we always rant about them, but we got a code that you guys can use, which neither one of us will be paid for. So a lot of affiliates are obviously paid in some way by the company they team up with. We're not, because myself as a medical practitioner, I cannot legally be paid for getting anybody to go there. I just wanted to weigh, since we're always talking about Marek and always wearing, the Marek clothes and stuff, and you guys see it. If you wanted to go and use Marek services, you can get a discount, which I think is 10% off. Again, we won't get any reimbursement or anything for this, but if you use code ATLAS when you're checking out, you'll save 10%. And I definitely suggest going through the process of not only doing the labs, which is really cool if you want to do that and you feel like you know how to read it and everything, but go through the process of meeting with a PCC who will help you to buy the labs, and then meet with a doctor and everything, so that if you are that guy who you get that A1C of a 6.5 and you're like, I don't want to just try to do this through diet and exercise alone, which is totally possible. But if you're like, let's hit this with a nuclear approach first, at that time, you could maybe meet with a doctor, and if warranted, get prescribed an anti-diabetic medication or something. But you can also throw a code in if you just want to see your labs. For years, I looked at my own labs through other companies, and I understand that. So code ATLAS will save you 10%.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we've discussed it a little bit. I would love to get some of our other PCCs at Marek on the podcast eventually. I mean, some of them are just so clinically sound, and would love to get for them to have the platform to kind of talk about their background and really kind of show off some of the awesome, obviously the medical providers we have at Marek are top notch, but some of the patient care coordinators we have too are pretty remarkable as far as their knowledge and what they, really can help somebody do as far as increasing their health and longevity.
Yeah, we'll do that soon. I'm sure you guys will be meeting a lot of them. We'll get recurring guests like Dom and stuff on.
Yep.
But I'm burping like crazy. I think we've been talking for too long, so we can hop off this one and see you guys in the next.
Absolutely. See you guys soon.
All right, now I got to figure out how to fucking get out of this.
How I turn this shit off now.
Okay, I'm going. Dude, this is so crazy to me. Victoria texted me and said it was snowing.
After you guys just had 70-degree weather this weekend?
Yeah, what the